She ruled men with beauty and destroyed kingdoms with her mind. But behind the golden crown was a woman fighting to save her world. Was Cleopatra a seductress, or the last true pharaoh who defied Rome itself? In 69 BCE, in the great city of Alexandria, a beacon of culture and knowledge, a child was born into a palace of marble and gold. Her name was Cleopatra. She was destined to become the last pharaoh of Egypt, the final brilliant spark of a 3,000-year-old civilization before it was swallowed by the rising power of Rome. But her family, the Ptolemaic dynasty, were not Egyptians at all. They were Greeks, proud descendants of one of Alexander the Great's most trusted generals. For centuries, they ruled Egypt as foreign kings, never truly belonging to the ancient land they governed. Yet Cleopatra was different. She saw the divide. She was the first of her line to master the Egyptian language. She worshipped the Egyptian gods with genuine devotion. To her people, she wasn't just a foreign queen. She was a goddess reborn, the living embodiment of Isis. But power in the Ptolemaic court was a dangerous game, and the throne itself was a precarious prize. When her father, Ptolemy XV, died, the throne passed jointly to Cleopatra and her 10-year-old brother Ptolemy XIII. According to their father's will, they were to rule together. The kingdom was nearly bankrupt, torn apart by internal factions, and constantly under the looming shadow of the mighty Roman Republic. At just 18, Cleopatra found herself betrayed by her own brother's ambitious courtiers. She was exiled from her palace, hunted, and forced into hiding in the harsh desert. Most would have accepted defeat, lost to the sands of history. She did not. She began plotting her return. Then came the man who would change her destiny, the most powerful man in Rome, Julius Caesar. In 48 BCE, Caesar arrived in Alexandria chasing his enemy Pompey, only to find he had just been murdered on the orders of Cleopatra's brother. Egypt was a powder keg, and Caesar was the spark. From her exile, Cleopatra saw her chance. Legend says she had herself smuggled into Caesar's palace, rolled inside a fine carpet. When it was unrolled before the Roman general, out came the young queen, dressed in gold, eyes full of fire and intelligence. Caesar was stunned. It was an entrance he would never forget. He was captivated not just by her beauty, but by her formidable mind. She spoke 9 languages fluently. She understood power, politics, and the art of persuasion. She didn't just want survival. She wanted to restore Egypt's glory and secure its freedom. Caesar restored her to the throne, and soon their alliance became something deeper, a bond of love and strategy. Cleopatra gave birth to a son, Caesarion, Little Caesar. In her heart, she dreamed of a dynasty that would rule both Egypt and Rome. With Caesar at her side, she restored Egypt's economy, reopened trade, and rebuilt temples. She sailed down the Nile dressed as the goddess Isis, and to her people, she was salvation itself. To Rome, she was a mystery, beautiful, brilliant, and dangerously powerful. But in Rome, power is a fleeting and dangerous prize. In 44 BCE, Julius Caesar was assassinated, stabbed 23 times by his own senators. The future they had planned together collapsed in blood. Forced to flee Rome, Cleopatra returned to Egypt. Once again, she was left alone, a queen surrounded by enemies. Yet history was not done with her. Another Roman would soon enter her life, Mark Antony, Caesar's most loyal general. After Caesar's death, Rome fell into civil war between Antony and Caesar's adopted son, Octavian. When Antony summoned Cleopatra to Tarsus to explain her political choices, she didn't come as a subordinate. She arrived on a magnificent barge, presenting herself not as a queen, but as the goddess Venus. She sailed into the harbor of Tarsus on a golden ship, with purple sails, silver oars, and music filling the air. Antony was mesmerized. The man who commanded legions now bowed to a queen. But Cleopatra's charm wasn't only in beauty. She knew that through Antony, Egypt could survive. Their alliance became love. Together they ruled as partners, building a vision where East and West might stand as equals. They had 3 children. They shared wealth, power, and ambition. For a brief, shining moment, Cleopatra's dream was alive again. But in Rome, Octavian watched. He saw their love as a threat. He told his senators that Antony was bewitched, that Cleopatra had poisoned him against Rome. He declared war, not on Antony, but on the Queen of Egypt herself. Because he knew, to destroy a man's power, destroy the woman who inspires him. The year was 31 BCE. The place, Actium, the greatest naval battle of the ancient world. Cleopatra and Antony's fleets faced Octavian's legions across the blue waters of Greece. The winds turned, their ships faltered. In chaos and confusion, Cleopatra's fleet retreated. Antony followed her, abandoning the fight. Rome declared him a traitor. The world turned against them. A year later, the Roman legions stormed Alexandria. The dream of empire was over. Antony, believing Cleopatra was dead, fell on his own sword. When she found him dying, she held him in her arms as he whispered, "Do not grieve too much. Join me soon in glory." Now Cleopatra stood alone, the last queen of the Nile, surrounded by Rome's armies. She knew what awaited her: humiliation, chains, and a parade through Rome's streets. But Cleopatra would not die as a trophy. She would die as a queen. In her final moments, she prepared herself. She dressed in royal white, placed the golden crown upon her head, and sat beside a basket of figs, where a venomous asp was hidden. She lifted the serpent to her skin. Its fangs pierced her hand. Her breathing slowed, her crown slipped, and with her final breath, 3,000 years of Egyptian rule ended. The Nile Queen was gone. Rome took her throne. Octavian became Augustus, the first emperor of Rome. He erased Cleopatra's name, called her a temptress, a witch, a manipulator. But the truth survived. Cleopatra was far more than beauty. She was one of the most intelligent, strategic, and fearless rulers in history. She spoke the languages of her enemies. She built fleets, commanded armies, and defied an empire. She was not conquered by Rome. She chose her own fate. Centuries later, her story still burns bright. Because Cleopatra is not just a legend, she is a symbol of power, pride, and independence. The woman who dared to stand between 2 worlds, the ancient and the modern, and refused to bow. She may have lost her throne, but she gained something greater: immortality. Cleopatra, the queen who played with empires and won her place in eternity.